Hello and welcome. Can you hear me? Cool, cool. Okay. We're going to talk about mobile apps here and how to launch and how to engage. So I will start with Tobias here about talking about the best practices. And I'll start with just introduction how they're doing and how we go from there. So, Tobias works for AIK, and they've launched their application called AIK Plus. They have more monthly active users than all apps together in Sweden. They have 50,000 active subscribers to content that pay around €8 a month for that content. And they have peak engagement time of an average of 25 minutes per day. So, what's your secret, Tobias? Tell us, how do you do that?
Well, to start with, I think it's about a mindset on how to implement the app in a club, what to use the app for, and prioritize your app. Very early stage, we just decided that this is going to be our main channel of communication to reach out to the most engaging supporters. So pretty much in all communications that we do on other platforms, we always direct people to the app. And that was a big thing for us because I was, to be honest, a little bit worried because football supporters are generally a bit conservative. Being from Sweden, I remember when Zlatan Ibrahimovic launched his app a few years ago, people back in Sweden hated that. And AIK in Sweden, maybe not so a massive club outside of Sweden or outside of Scandinavia, but in Sweden, AIK is a massive club with a lot of supporters. So I was a little bit worried about that, but I think the secret really was just deciding that this is what we're going for, and constantly having it as a main channel of communication, and always pointing traffic in that direction.
Yeah, taking the decision and stick with it.
Yeah.
Going forward.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, sure, Daniel.
So we've worked a lot on this project very closely. One of the things that from my side, it feels like everybody has been really aligned in what that vision is. Was that difficult to achieve? Because we were talking previously, just a little bit before about, okay, maybe you're sacrificing a bit of reach, but then you've seen, despite you don't maybe have the same reach of putting content out on social media for free, but you've got a lot of other benefits. But maybe that's not so obvious to buy into. And if you don't have everybody in the club who has that same vision, it can be.
I think difficult. It was, and I've been in the club for 11 years, so things have certainly changed when it comes to how you see how to work with digital in general. But I think we're internally we were pretty much on board. And there was concern from outside raised about this. Like, are you excluding people? Are you gonna, you have all these followers on Instagram and things like that. Well, we still do Instagram. It's just that we're clear on that we want people to go to the app, because in the app it's where we gather the maybe 25,000 most engaged supporters, and those supporters are ambassadors that will give us a lot of benefits on other platforms.
Yeah, I actually think that the app is the natural place for clubs to start to own that direct relationship with the consumer. And it's something that every single club out there has, right? We have millions of followers on social media. And the place for us to start to funnel that relationship down into the club, for us to own that relationship, it has to be through the app. So from the perspective of the club, we very much are following on your footsteps there and putting the app at the center of our digital strategy, because it just feels natural.
Cool. But you launched an app just a month ago, and to my data, you're like 5 times as much users. Can you tell me how did you manage that?
Following on Tobias' footsteps. No, I think, again, we've gone through this digital transformation program. We've launched a new website, a new app, a new streaming product, all within a very short period of time. which I don't recommend unless you have an incredible passion for strong South American coffee, which I do. Incredibly tough, but actually what that allows you to do is sit down with a blank sheet of paper and don't think about legacy, just think about how do we want that relationship to work between fans and our digital platforms. Because I think one thing that I see a lot of clubs doing and a lot of organizations outside of sports, to be fair, doing is creating club-centric, organization-centric applications rather than fan, customer-centric applications, because those two things sometimes can be quite different. So this is kind of, I guess, the success story from our end was actually to jump into the deep end and be able to reimagine the entire ecosystem at once, and hopefully that is paying off.
Yeah, jump into it, right?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of sleepless nights, but hopefully now overdone.
Yeah, you have to do what you have to do.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Okay, we're going to bring in someone else in the conversation as well, David. You have deep experience with consulting sporting clubs. What do you think is their biggest challenges, and what do you see out there?
The challenge is well explained by Fabiola and Tobias regarding the club perspective, but from a product standpoint, if you check the app 6-7 years ago, it was just a new platform to display your content and maybe having like another way to interact with your fan, but now the strategy is different. You need to have more exclusivity and you need to provide more services. If I want to check the score of the game, I don't need the app. I can just Google the score and Google any kind of content. If you are coming with new content, new exclusivity, and new services, we spoke just before this at panel about like ticketing, servicing, food and beverage, etc. You are adding value in your product and for your brands. And this is the main challenge for all the organization right now. And after, of course, the goal is really to capitalize on that audience and after getting the right data points. So you will still have your content strategy on social, etc., but you still need to have the same thing for your proprietary platform, and after adding a layer of new services and new kind of elements. And that's exactly what Tobias and Fabiola are doing with their club. And if you check the app, I downloaded it a week ago when we prepared a little bit this panel, and the first experience is just like a single sign-on, like a chatbot experience where you are like providing data, but you don't realize that you are providing data actually, which is like awesome because at the same time you are helping your club and you will have a better experience with the audience, which is great. And I think this is the evolution of the market right now.
Yeah, cool. What we haven't said here is like I'm the CEO of Forza FC that have brought the app to ICO and Southampton. I just started this, so I don't have too much knowledge about it, but someone that has is Daniel here, that's worked with this for 4 years. So I want to bring you into the conversation to see, when you've seen like dozens of clubs doing this, well, what's your like biggest takeaway on that?
Yeah, we've overseen quite a few app launches now, so we've got some good learnings. I'd say there's a few common traits that I think come through from our most successful clubs. So I'd say one of them, we've touched on it a little bit, is like strong leadership, somebody who kind of can push things through. There is a tendency you can overcomplicate things and then you end up just not even launching something. So it's great to just launch something and then iterate on that, build and improve. And then one of the ways you can do that is being really clear on the KPIs around the application and monitoring them, and also feeding that back to the people in the club. So I think Southampton have been really, really good at this. So with the weekly reports that we send out, there's a lot of engagement. I'm getting a lot of feedback. Just as an example, they've been really pushing us around notifications, so pushing us to track the trend of who's turning on notifications, how are people engaging with that, and how is that helping to drive usage in the application.
Cool. But
that goes back to the core principle that is underpinning our digital transformation strategy, which is this test and learn element. Okay. We didn't want to create an app or a website without actually learning from users on how they want to use the app, how they want to use our platforms. because it's much easier for you to lean into behavior that is already there rather than trying to create new habits from a France perspective. So that test and learn capability that Forza gave to us to go to market incredibly quickly and test and learn and reiterate, that is very much the reason why we are working together, and that sits in the center of our digital strategy in the club.
Yeah, I think it's super important to iterate and at the same time to let the possibility internally for a big club like the Saints to let other business units interact with your project. Because at the beginning, maybe it's a project owned by the digital team or the content team, but after you will involve other folks internally, and they need to, understand what is happening, etc. And by the fact that you will iterate, you will create certain behavior, and after you can share the knowledge with them, and they will be involved on that project. And
Absolutely.
It's 100% to have like the whole ecosystem and the whole organization when you are building this kind of product.
That's the biggest challenge, isn't it? Is how do we bring the rest of the club on that journey with us? And I spend the majority of my time talking back to whether it be the ownership of the club or the senior leadership of the club, explaining why certain things need to be done a certain way from a technical perspective. Sometimes they're asking me to add a button to the app, and they don't fully understand how complicated that might be to actually do in practice. So that being that bridge when it comes to the technical knowledge, I think is really important, and it helps in the long term when they buy into that vision.
Yeah, and I suppose the KPIs will be a good tool there then, to show what worked or not.
The data will show you very, very quickly, right?
Yeah,
it's very revealing, and that's what you should be led by. Yeah. And that's, I think, as a company, it's been really instilled in us from the start, is follow what the data tells you and iterate based on that.
Yeah. So, Fabi, what's your favorite KPI? What do you look at, or what have happened to be the one that?
So we kind of split into two phases, kind of short term and long term. Right now, we are still in the early phases of implementation of the app and short term. So the main objective is to test and learn, gather insights, so that the KPIs are around that. But on the long term, the vision and the philosophy, or the hypothesis that we're trying to find out if it's truth or not, is whether content and community building are the success formula for the app. And within that, the KPIs will be very much about how much are people engaging with the app, how much time they're spending on the app, but actually how do they go on to then purchase, to a purchase journey. So average revenue per user will be
conversion
will be one of the big ones at second phase.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so that's a second phase for you.
Yeah.
How is it with you, Tobias? Would you resonate with that?
Well, I totally agree on everything there, so there's not much to say about that. But I can see other things, that is a little bit more, it's a little bit harder to measure. But since we launched our app, of course, AIK is a big team in Sweden, but we grew our season ticket sales with 28% since we launched the app. We have a record average attendance year of 25,000, which is 25% higher than we had before. It all adds together in our strategy, which is always to fill the stadium. Yeah. And this is a big part of this, because I'm in the business of selling atmosphere. Swedish football is not always fantastic, but the atmosphere of our games are top class. So that's something that I look really careful at too. We have the worst season ever this year. We're almost out of the top league. I'm sick, to be honest. Hopefully, our league is about to end. We have 6 games left, so hopefully we'll solve this. But still, the attendance just goes up. And that's because I have a really good platform to engage, with our most engaged supporters. They're our ambassadors. They will make sure that we fill the stadium.
Cool.
Well, one thing I would just add on KPIs, if you're getting started with building an application, to be the most important is to just measure retention, right? Because if you have a product that has particularly an application that has poor retention, it doesn't really matter what you're trying to achieve. It's going to be incredibly difficult to achieve that. So I think that's a good starting point.
Oh, no, actually, you have like some stats about that. Like when you're downloading an app, if the first experience is not good, you will never like open the app again. So this is the main problem.
Yeah, exactly. When we were building that onboarding flow and experience, when we went through different versions, we saw this statistic about the impact that the first experience of using the application has on the first month retention. And it's a huge, so we really want to make that first time you download the application and use it, be a great experience. And on top of that, it's also a really important moment to capture data, so we kind of joined the two. And yeah, we're not at the end there, we're going to keep building on what we've made.
Actually, I'm sorry, but I have a question for the club.
Sure.
But regarding the data, do you share that data with the business unit internally in order to sell more partnership, etc.? Because I have a feeling, from an external point of view, about the fact that we are building great product, but sometimes the business unit from clubs are not really well involved on the project in order to create new partnership, new data. Of course, we also the Barcelona project with Spotify on the fact that the data point on opt-ins were super important. But do you share already this kind of data with the sponsoring team and other business units? And they are taking care of it?
Absolutely. We do that. We have a regular reporting system, so they always are on top of that. And we do see revenue growing, with partners when they come in on this side. In Sweden, I think, there's the sponsorship market traditionally is, you buy the VIP, you eat the steak, and you sit in the lounge and have but we see more and more customers coming in with their brain and wanting return of the investment. But I think it's a progress of also the sales teams finding the right customers that understand this business, because traditional football sponsors, maybe in Sweden at least, maybe don't understand this business well enough yet. Yeah, very similar. In the club, there is that need for us to join the dots. My team actually is composed by the dot connectors in the club, so I look after digital, but also brand and creative, PR and comms, football content, and fan experience, which in a way is all of the different stakeholders that have a responsibility for making the app and the content within it work really well from a fan's perspective. So we are always joined up, and they are co-owners of that platform as much as the guys on the digital team specifically.
Okay. Well, one thing that I would say is we're working with some clubs on some really great sponsor activations, and because one of the opportunities you have with the application is the person who's using it very well, right? We capture a lot of data, and so you can give a much better experience by doing an activation inside the application than, say, if you're just doing a post on Facebook where the club even has to pay to reach all the people who follow them. So.
Yeah, cool. We touched on revenue here, like how to make money. I know, Thomas, you have this subscription model, and you choose then to go with subscription model and micropayments. Could you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So again, it's all about this underpinning principle around test and learn. So different fans require different things from the club. That ultimately this is about giving them that flexibility. So you have a fan that is a super fan and wants that always-on relationship with the club. Perhaps for them, it makes sense to have a subscription model. But for other part of our fan base, more casual fans perhaps, they might not be willing to enter into a subscription with us. And for them, what we're trying to understand is whether or not giving exclusive, bite-size, behind-the-scenes content via the app, and then asking them to contribute with a micropayment of £1 or £2 if they would be willing to do that. And if they are, how often and how much that would be. So I think this is what we're trying to get to. Is there a place for both? Or in the long term, we just focus on one of those things. But that's kind of where we are at the moment. And that's where the idea for micropayments came from.
Yeah, cool. So you're doing this iterative way, right, of scaling and learning. Cool. But Tobias, you've been live like a year with this.
Yeah, seems like a long time, but sometimes also it isn't. I would say we're still evaluating. Obviously, we're really happy, with the revenue coming in, but we have sort of had some, strategy changes during the way also, because something that, really got me into this app from the start was the mix of what is free and what is premium material for the subscribers. So, the non-subscribers feel a big is a big part of this as well. Choosing what is free and what is not free, and always having them close to taking the step to become a premium subscriber. Because you might not want to be a premium subscriber this month, especially when we're doing so bad. But well, we'll win a derby on Sunday, and subscription will go up. And you're already there in the app, integrating and using the app, buying tickets and all the other stuff that you do as a supporters. But no, but we're of course really happy.
But I'd say, I think people might be surprised at the resilience of your subscriber numbers, given because people often ask me like how correlated, and it's still, you see a dip, but it has been, I think that's been one of the successes.
No, it's still fairly steady.
It's been very, very.
I think now it's just a matter of us to start thinking about how to take the next step. How to maybe package this product with other products, using data that we have from ticketing, from merchandise and stuff like that. How can we bundle subscriptions with other things? Because we have a lot of active supporters that probably should be in a subscription, but that we want to convert. So that would be the next step for us.
And at the same time, you need to keep in mind like your current audience. You're still targeting a local audience, I would say. So basically, the kind of projects that you will put in place will be for that audience. And tomorrow you can't like scale a lot. You're not like, but Manchester United, for example, with the same like commercial strategy, etc. So of course, when you will deploy a project, it must take into account your current capabilities.
Exactly. But I think we have potential to maybe double what we have today.
Because
so
you know the audience and you know like your targets.
But I think I see, if I would put on the club hat, not just the app hat, I'd rather stay on this level and grow the rest of the audience in the app even more, because it's gonna get us more ticket sales, get us much more merchandise sales, and stuff like that. That would be give the club great economic value.
But when you're benchmarking that, you're benchmarking from other Swedish clubs or other tier 2 clubs from Europe. How do you benchmark this kind of stuff?
I would say against other clubs, relevant clubs in Scandinavia.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is like one of the advantages of our model. We can help the clubs actually benchmark, and so when we provide some of we anonymize everything, of course, but we can deliver the clubs with benchmarks, and so because they can be a bit intimidating, right? You put in a report, a number. Okay, is this a good number? Is this a bad number? If you have no context, it can be difficult to know what to do with that. So that's something recently we've been trying to help with.
But it's also fascinating because depending on which club you are, I think you can focus on different things. Because if you fill your stadium every week, you have a huge international audience. The subscription and that part would probably be even more important. But for us, the subscription is a really, really good sum of money that's coming into the club. But what we get from ticketing and merchandise sales and so on gets us even more. So you can sort of scale it depending on which club you are, which is really interesting. It doesn't really limit you.
I have to ask you, Tobias. I know Forza Football can show that you get return on investment like a month after launch. When you were approached and the dialogue started, did you believe that, or was it like, is this doable, or was it just, of course?
Well, to be honest, yes.
Oh yeah, okay, cool. But that's great.
But the thing is that because we did have a subscription service before, that we weren't really happy with because it was just premium. So we didn't get all these other nice benefits of reaching out to our audience that wasn't paying to funnel them down into this app. So I was fairly confident that we would get this kind of audience, especially when we decided on strategy to have this as our main communication platform.
And the whole organization agree with you?
Yeah.
Ah, cool.
That is the exception.
yeah, I would say so too.
I think the rule is that there is a lot of skepticism out there.
We're not going to have time to tell all that history because, but it hasn't always been like that. I've been in the club for 11 years ago. Former president of us said that we shouldn't be on the internet at all. We should practice football.
There is some of that as well.
So we come some way. It's been battles going on for years, but I think we're in a really good place now for this, and have a high acceptance level.
Great.
From top to bottom in the club.
I think I know where you're coming from, because within clubs there is this mindset of we're going to develop a new app, so we want the new app to do everything that the current app does, plus this whole new bunch of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Which it can be quite tricky to because you're trying to do all things for all people, and to do that via an application is incredibly hard. So when you come in with a different proposition, there needs to be a mindset shift as to let's get this one thing, which in our case is, as I said, content and community building together. Let's get this one thing together first, and then we can see what else we can bring into the app. How can we integrate with other platforms out there which are doing an incredible job rather than trying to develop ourselves? Yeah. So we want to bring into the app, let's say, an AI assistant for match day. So when fans are coming into some areas on match day, they know exactly where to get everything. Their ticket is on the app. They can order to their seats. Or, for example, if they are sustainability conscious and they want to book park and ride or a lift with another Saints fan, they can do all that via the app, via an assistant. So that's great. But let's not spend the time and the money developing that ourselves. Let's go out to the market and find the people that do that really, really well, and then let's integrate with them. Yeah. And I think that mindset shift is something that, different industries are in different paths along that journey. It just feels like on football we're starting on that and understanding the technical element of you don't need to build everything yourself. You can find people and then integrate into your app.
Cool. We brushed on this, comparing numbers and so forth. I happen to know that you're in like an organization with different clubs being owned by the same owner, right? How do you share your knowledge and know-how? Yeah,
for sure. So Saints is owned by Sport Republic, and their philosophy, they work under this strategy of a multi-club strategy. So we have a club in Turkey called Göztepe, as well as a club in France now called Valenciennes. So that knowledge sharing amongst our sister clubs is very, very important. So on Monday, actually, we are hosting our first cross-club digital and content workshop, where we're going to get to know each other. I think people underestimate the importance of having an incredible working relationship with the people that you work with. Of course, great professionals can work with anyone, but when that collaboration and that compatibility comes naturally, you spend much less time trying to figure out how to work with one another and much more time and energy on the actual product. So that's really important. But we're also going to be digging into each other's tech stack. What platforms are you using? What contracts? What are you getting on your contract versus us? How can we approach contract negotiations from a ownership perspective, from an ownership group perspective, rather than individually through clubs? And then finally, sharing best practices. Both in terms of simple things like templates, equipment that you're reusing, but also what is the TikTok audience doing in Turkey versus France, right? What is the Google algorithm? What is that changing? What do you know? What do we know? So we can be much more joined up in that sense. And actually, when do we surface that narrative to fans so that they understand the value on being part of a multi-club strategy ownership group?
Cool. I don't know, I could have talked all day with this beautiful panel, but it's like 5 minutes left, so I would like you to all kind of start with you, Dave. Could you just take a moment to say what was your biggest takeaway from this discussion and share with the audience?
Yeah, no, I think quite straightforward. You have a vision from a brand. Actually, when you're looking for a football shirt now, what is the brand? Is it like Nike, Adidas, or another one, or is it the logo of the club? You can maybe think about that. And you have a lot of challenge internally first to solve all the issues. And as you mentioned, Fabi, you want to reproduce exactly the same product plus extra features. This is a challenge because the technology is evolving a lot and really fast. But from what I'm learning here, we are starting to get KPIs, but on top of KPIs, revenues. So now you have the figures. You are not just saying like, okay, I have X opt-in. No, I can make revenues thanks to that opt-ins. And I think this is currently the shift of this industry. From social network, we knew like we have like higher audience, but it's harder to really like think about other way to monetize it rather than using the platform by itself. So I think, yeah, now you are like bringing value by yourself and you are more autonomous. I think this is my key takeaway.
And you, Tobias?
No, I think sitting here thinking about, the way that maybe we're a little bit about how you traditionally would go from an inside-out perspective when you build apps, that you should more go from the outside and in. Look at it from the fans' perspective. Solve problems for the supporters. Find a way to make it an everything place and make it a natural part of the build-up for the game and for the what happens after the game, because it will solve problems. And I think it's also interesting about connecting different technical and integrate that, get the best AI guy, integrate that, get the best ticketing solution, get the best
deliverer.
And then integrate that into the app.
Yeah.
Don't try to do everything yourself.
No, take the best. Cool. Daniel?
I think the biggest point I would try and get across is be data-led, follow what the data tells you. And I think with Southampton AK, we're really following that ethos. So.
Cool.
I would say, yes, follow the data, but also focus on the fan. Ultimately, that is what it's about. I remember when I joined football, and I have only been in the club for 18 months now, in one of my first meetings, I said, the customer journey, and there was this horror shock in everyone's face. But actually, it is the customer, right? Because the fan has one thing which a customer doesn't have, which is unconditional love. And from a customer perspective, if you don't give me a great product, a great service, the things that I desire, I will go and find that somewhere else. Yeah. And I think clubs should not lose sight of that, because building a relationship on top of unconditional love means that standards will ultimately always decline on the long term. So I think, treat customers always knowing that they might be able to go somewhere else tomorrow, even though you know that they probably
Okay, so data, the fan in center, and choosing the best deliverer of the service you want to achieve. Okay, I want to point out that Forza Football is having a speech, which you're going to be in, 11:30 tomorrow, right?
Yeah, tomorrow we're going to be on the main stage talking about women in football and the need for us to bridge the gap between where we are and where we need to be. So everyone come, welcome, and let's have that great discussion together with my panelists over here.
What do you know? Okay, so thank you. Could we have a round of applause for this great...